Salve omnis, and this is first part of Creepypasta Iceberg. So, let's go. Jeff the Killer. Jeff the Killer is a fairly well-known character from Creepypasta. He is the first character that made me learn about the Creepypasta universe. About this character, Jeff the Killer is a fictitious horror character and Creepypasta meme. The figure was developed by DeviantArt and Newgrounds user Cesar and rose to prominence when a fan-made Creepypasta story was published in 2011. He is portrayed as a crazy serial murderer with horribly pale skin, no eyelids, and a permanent smile-shaped scar. Jeff the Killer immediately became one of the most popular Creepypasta characters, spawning several fan works. Jeff the Killer's original narrative was written by DeviantArt user Cesar, a pseudonym for Jeff Case from Auburndale, Florida. In 2008, Cesar began posting on Newgrounds under the nickname Killer Jeff, describing a Bloody Mary-style ceremony that allegedly summoned Jeff. In the original account, Jeff, previously known as Jeffrey C. Haddock, accidentally spilled a bucket of acid on his face while trying to clean his bathtub. The most well-known version of the Jeff the Killer narrative, which debuted in 2011, has a youngster called Jeffrey Woods who is attacked by a bunch of bullies. The confrontation culminates with Jeff nearly getting imprisoned for assault, but his brother Lou takes the blame, landing him in juvenile detention. This experience causes Jeff to become melancholy and introverted. His anxious parents compel him to attend a party, where he runs with the same bullies from the last battle. In a violent encounter, Jeff kills the bullies but is sprayed with alcohol and set on fire, resulting in serious burns over most of his skin. After being released from the hospital and having his bandages removed, Jeff becomes fascinated with his deformities and begins to lose his sanity. He carves a smile-shaped scar on his face, removes his eyelids, and eventually murders his family. He becomes a serial murderer, slipping into victims' houses at night. He is infamous for whispering "go to sleep" before murdering his victims. Oddly enough, this picture is a collage of several photos of people of different age groups. SCP Foundation. The SCP Foundation, Special Containment Procedures or Secure, Contain, Protect, is a fictional secret organization described on the wiki of the same name. It positions itself as a secret international foundation for the discovery, storage, and study of anomalous objects, creatures, and phenomena. The site was created by a group of enthusiasts who initially worked together on the imageboard 4chan. Texts, stylized as documents, combining elements of mysticism, science fiction, and urban fantasy, are the basis of the SCP database. Concept of articles. Reports about paranormal events and artifacts in the SCP database contain information about their history, characteristics, and recommendations for their use or disposal. The structure of the articles is characterized by a dry, formal style. To do this, they may include images and use the capabilities of the Wikidot engine to convey to readers the unusual impact of the objects. For example, the text of the article may change as you read it. Part of the style of the articles are the deleted and data redacted boxes, which replace parts of the text, creating an atmosphere of mystery and encouraging the imagination of readers. Articles about SCP objects do not necessarily have to match. The authors of the anomalous articles reject the 3 rules of the SCP Foundation. Protect. The Foundation protects anomalies from falling into the hands of citizens or hostile organizations. This is achieved through worldwide surveillance and rapid response to any signs of anomalous behavior. Maintain. The Foundation controls anomalies to prevent them from spreading. This is achieved by moving anomalies to specially equipped facilities, hiding or dismantling them, and containing or preventing the widespread dissemination of information about anomalies. Protect. The Foundation not only protects humanity from anomalous effects, but also preserves the anomalies themselves until they are fully recognized or used to create new scientific theories. In addition, the Foundation can neutralize or destroy anomalies. However, this is only done in extreme cases, when the anomaly is too dangerous to contain. Classification of objects. Objects that belong to the SCP category are assigned a class, number, and color. 1. Unmarked, gray, is when the effect of this object is unknown or has been completely neutralized. Thus, SCP-407 is a song in an unknown language that causes rapid cell growth within range. 2. Safe, green. This means that the object poses no threat if containment rules are followed. In addition, it must be predictable, and the risk of casualties and destruction when experimenting with it must be absent or negligible. For example, SCP-500 is a jar of pills that can cure any disease. 3. Euclid, yellow, is an object whose properties are not fully understood or whose actions are unpredictable. Although Euclids do not pose the same threat to humanity as Keter-class objects, they can be quite difficult to contain. For example, SCP-173 is a statue that appears to be a hideous childlike figure that remains motionless as long as someone looks at it, otherwise, it kills everyone around it. 4. Ketera, red, are entities that display overt and active hostility towards humans, civilization, space, and time. If their containment conditions are violated, they can cause significant destruction. Such entities must be catalogued, placed under special containment conditions, and, if possible, destroyed. An example is SCP-682, also known as Ketera. It is a large reptilian entity that attacks all living things and cannot be destroyed by any known means. The entity regenerates from severe injuries, which is why SCP personnel constantly keep it in a strong acid solution. 5. Thaumiel, black, are objects that are very mysterious and rarely encountered. The Foundation uses them to contain or combat other anomalies that pose a great danger, especially Keter-class objects. The very information about the existence of Thaumiel-class objects is not known to anyone except high-ranking Foundation employees. For example, SCP-1968 is a torus-shaped device that was unexpectedly transferred to copy the past universe. It is kept as a means of last resort if the world ends. 6. Exotic, blue, is a category of non-standard objects that cannot be attributed to the previous classes and are rarely mentioned. All 17 non-standard object classes are used to describe 30 SCP objects. Some of them are less harmful than others, but are useful to humanity. There are also those that threaten death, but it is better not to provoke them. Given the unique properties of planet Earth, there is an assumption that SCP-001 belongs to planet Earth itself. 7. A metaclass, pink, is a type of object that cannot be assigned to any of the above classes, as its properties can change its class or even its entire documentation. For example, SCP-4780 assigns itself this number and no one knows what it is. The suffix X is used to denote anomalous properties of objects that have been thoroughly investigated and explained, i.e., are no longer considered anomalous. The suffix J is used for objects whose description is clearly humorous. The suffixes ARC, V, and D are used to describe objects that have been removed from the main SCP list but are preserved elsewhere. Foundation staff stories often mention various Foundation personnel who are directly involved in capturing, containing, or researching objects. They are divided into categories, classes, and positions. Level 0, General Use. Personnel who are not particularly valuable and do not require access to information about anomalous creatures or artifacts held by the Foundation are granted Level 0 clearance. Typically, Level 0 clearance is found in clerical and supply departments, as well as personnel who service these facilities. Level 1, for service use. Level 1 clearance information is issued to employees who work with anomalous objects or entities to which they do not have direct, indirect, or informational access, as well as to employees who handle classified information. In most cases, Level 1 clearance applies to employees working in the supply and clerical departments of facilities that are directly responsible for the maintenance of facilities, as well as to personnel who service these facilities. Level 2, restricted access. Level 2 clearance is granted to scientists and security personnel who require direct access to basic information about anomalous objects or entities in containment. Most researchers, field agents, and containment specialists have Level 2 clearance. Level 3, secret. Level 3 clearance is reserved for the most senior security personnel and scientists who require access to detailed data about anomalous objects or entities in containment, including their origin, circumstances of extraction, and long-term plans. Level 3 clearance is for most senior scientists, project managers, security officers, response team members, and MTF operatives. Level 4, top secret. Level 4 clearance is granted to the highest level of management personnel. They must have access to all information about the facility, the region, and the long-term plans for Foundation operations and scientific projects. Only site leaders, facility security leaders, and MTF commanders have Level 4 clearances. Level 5, Thaumiel, the highest level of management personnel in the Foundation, are granted Level 5 clearance, which grants them virtually complete access to all strategic and classified information. Typically, only members of the O5 Council have Level 5 clearance. Personnel classes are assigned to employees based on the frequency of their contact with anomalous objects, creatures, or phenomena. 1. Class A. As such, personnel deemed critical to the Foundation's strategic operations are prohibited from direct access to anomalous objects. If personnel of the class must be in the vicinity of such anomalies for any reason, for example, if they are working in a containment facility, they must remain in secure areas at all times and are prohibited from entering the immediate containment area. In the event of an emergency, personnel of the class must be evacuated immediately to a safe area outside the facility. O5 class is granted to council members at all times. Point 2. Personnel deemed essential to local Foundation operations are assigned Class B clearance. They are permitted access only to anomalous objects, entities, and phenomena that have been quarantined and measures taken to prevent any psychic or mimetic influence. Class B personnel are to be evacuated immediately to a predetermined safe area outside the facility in the event of a breach of containment or hostile behavior toward a Foundation facility. Point 3. Class C provides direct access to most anomalies that are not hostile or dangerous. Class C personnel who have had direct contact with potential sources of mental or mimetic influence may be subject to mandatory quarantine or psychiatric evaluation at the discretion of security. Non-combatant Class C personnel must either arrive at the facility's secure area in the event of a containment breach or hostile action against a Foundation facility, or evacuate at the discretion of local security in the event of a significant containment breach or other catastrophic event. Point 4. Expenditure personnel working with extremely dangerous anomalies are assigned Class D. They are prohibited from associating with Class A and Class B personnel. Class D personnel are typically recruited from prisoners worldwide, particularly those convicted of violent crimes and, especially, those sentenced to death. In extreme cases, Protocol May 12 be used to recruit personnel from other sources, such as refugees, political prisoners, and other civilians. Recruited personnel are transferred to Foundation facilities for a valid reason. Recruited personnel are transferred to Foundation facilities for a valid reason. Class D personnel must undergo regular psychiatric evaluations, and at the end of a month they must either receive a Class B or stronger amnestic, or be released at the discretion of the local security or medical services. All local Class D personnel are subject to immediate destruction if a catastrophic event occurs at the facility, unless otherwise determined by local security. Point 5. Class E is a temporary designation given to field agents and containment personnel who have been exposed to potentially hazardous effects while bringing a new object into containment. Class E personnel must be immediately quarantined and monitored for changes in behavior, personality, or physiology that could be harmful. After a full debriefing, medical examination, and psychiatric evaluation, such personnel may return to duty. Positions: the following are the most common job titles used by the Foundation. The people responsible for containment at Foundation facilities have two primary functions. First, containment teams are dispatched to the site of a confirmed anomalous activity to secure the potential SCP object, create initial containment conditions, and transport it to the nearest Foundation containment facility. In addition, Foundation engineers and technicians work to create chambers and other facilities necessary to support anomalous phenomena, objects, or beings. The Foundation employs a research staff consisting of the most gifted and competent scientists from around the world, who direct research projects. They include experts in every conceivable field, from chemistry and botany to such obscure and narrow fields as theoretical physics and xenobiology. Foundation research projects aim to gain a greater understanding of unexplained anomalies and the principles by which they operate. The Security Service is responsible for ensuring the physical and informational security of Foundation projects, operations, and personnel. Military, law enforcement, and correctional officers make up the bulk of the Security Service personnel. They possess a variety of weapons and are trained to respond to a variety of emergencies, such as breaches of containment and hostile actions. The Security Service of Ukraine is also responsible for the informational security of the facility. This includes protecting the facility's computer systems from intruders, as well as physical copies of classified documentation. In addition, in the event of a hostile intrusion into a Foundation facility, Security Service personnel are often the first line of defense. When dealing with aggressive anomalous entities or members of hostile organizations, the response team is a highly trained and heavily armed military unit that accompanies containment teams. They are also responsible for protecting Foundation facilities from hostile actions. All major Foundation facilities have response teams ready to respond to any request. Field agents are the eyes and ears of the Foundation. They are trained to detect and investigate any signs of anomalous behavior. They often work undercover as law enforcement agents or are assigned to local organizations such as EMS or the Control Service. Due to the need to maintain cover, field agents are often ill-equipped to deal with anomalous activity. Thus, the agent will typically call in a suitably equipped containment team from the nearest Foundation facility upon confirmation of such activity. They are responsible for securing the potential SCP object and placing it under containment. Mobile task forces are specialized units formed from veteran agents from various Foundation facilities and are used in situations where certain threats arise. A mobile task force may consist of field investigators who specialize in a particular type of anomaly, or heavily armed soldiers trained to combat a particular type of enemy anomaly. Area directors are responsible for the direction of major Foundation facilities and are the highest-ranking officials in their respective areas. They are responsible for the continued safe operation of their facility, the detection of any anomalies, and the execution of related projects. The heads of all important local services report to the area director, who reports to the O5 Council. The Foundation's highest-ranking executive committee is composed of members of the O5 Council. They oversee all global Foundation operations and are responsible for long-term strategic planning, with full access to all information regarding anomalies in their custody. O5 Council members are not permitted to interact with any anomalous objects, beings, or phenomena due to their sensitive status. Furthermore, no one knows who the members of the Council are. All that is known is their numerical designations. History. In 2007, the Paranormal Image Board thread emerged on 4chan, where an anonymous user posted the first SCP file, SCP-173, accompanied by an image of the sculpture Untitled 2004 by Japanese artist Izumi Kato. This was the first example of how the concept of the SCP community emerged. Kato was unhappy that his works could be used without a license, but he allowed the photo to be used solely for non-commercial purposes by the community. Initially, this was a standalone story, but several additional SCP files were soon created, all set in the same fictional world. In January 2008, a separate wiki was created on the wiki hosting service EditThis to collect articles about SCP activity. The EditThis website did not have moderators or article deletion features. Members could communicate via the board and individual article talk pages. The website did not have a central forum for discussion. After EditThis switched to a paid model in July 2008, the SCP Wiki was moved to the current Wiki.dot website. In addition to the English-language website containing articles about SCP objects, 16 more were created. A Ukrainian-language version was released on November 10, 2016, and it was officially recognized on May 8, 2018. Squidward's suicide. They warn you in advance about what will happen next. It is not for children, pregnant women, vulnerable people, and people with weak psyche. All because what will happen next will be about blood. So there are timecodes, and you can rewind to any other topic in this video. Thank you for understanding. The original Squidward suicide upload is the first one to be made public. With a few exceptions, the plot is identical to that of the original tape. Plot static opens the video, which then cuts to the title card. After the concert, it switches to a scene that is almost identical to the original 2005 version, but with less expensive animation. The first scene of Josh's variant plays after Squidward shoots himself, although the VHS quality is worse. The scene where Squidward is gazing at the audience then starts, and the camera pans out to reveal his shoot gun as normal. The image of the bootleg copy of Dumped then appears, and the screen switches to TV color bars. The video concludes with a spooky image of a spooky woman glaring at the audience. The aftermath: the real burner account re-uploaded the video. Still, there is the same visualization for this creepypasta. I don't recommend watching it for everyone, but specifically for the above-mentioned groups of people. Although if you feel brave enough to watch it, the link is in the description. Ticci Toby. The main character in the eponymous old creepypasta story is Tobias Aaron Toby Rogers, often known as Ticci Toby. Look, Toby is portrayed as an unpleasant figure with a slender frame, sunken eyes, untidy hair, crooked teeth, and a pale, gaunt complexion. He usually wears torn clothes and is known for his erratic movements, unblinking stare, and eerie grin. Individuality: Toby is often vivacious and energetic. But sometimes, because of his mental instability, he would become uncontrollable and may be a very sarcastic guy. He is characterized as temperamental because he can suddenly become highly emotional, furious, or pleased, making it difficult to communicate with him at times. He may be friendly to some individuals despite this, yet he is also revealed to be a cunning troublemaker. Even though he occasionally twitches and ticks, he doesn't mind and keeps his demeanor the same. Toby, a terrible youngster born with mental issues, was ridiculed until he went nuts and killed his violent father. He was discovered by Slender Man and now acts as one of his proxies. Toby Rogers was born with a variety of mental illnesses, making it difficult for him to fit in with others. His disabilities made him unsuitable for a public school environment, and he was often bullied, so he was shifted to homeschooling early on. He grew up with few or no friends, living with his mother, elder sister Lyra, and father. When Toby was 17 years old, Lyra and Toby were engaged in a horrific vehicle accident that killed Lyra, becoming Ticci Toby. Toby became increasingly agitated when his sister died, his symptoms worsening. He stopped eating and leaving his room, became less sociable, lost more and more memory, and relieved his stress by gnawing the skin off his hands and fingers. His father became addicted to drugs and alcohol, gambled, and abused his family. Toby quickly lost control of his mind and one night assaulted and killed his father. He escaped the house, took 2 hatchets from his garage, a box of matches, and a gallon of gasoline, and set fire to the area in an attempt to evade the local police. The flames engulfed him, and just as he was ready to succumb to his own death, Slender Man arrived and saved him before he passed out. Toby awoke with no memories of his previous life and quickly became one of Slender Man's proxies. The Slender Man. The Slender Man, also known as Slender Man, is a supernatural being with ill-defined qualities and powers. Slender Man was initially suggested in the Something Awful forums Create Paranormal Images section. He is typically shown, in contemporary times, as a towering humanoid figure dressed in a black or gray suit, red or black tie, and white shirt. His face is absolutely white and devoid of facial characteristics. He has no hair and appears to have normal-looking naked hands, however his fingers are longer and bonier than the average human's. Slender Man has been described in images and literature as standing anywhere from 6 to 15 feet tall, depending on the setting, while on video he is generally only around 6 to 7 feet tall. Because of his ambiguous nature and discrepancies between tales, no one has yet defined what the Slender Man is. Currently, there are 2 prominent hypotheses on the Slender Man: the Tulpa effect and quantum theory. The online popularity of Slender Man has resulted in a large number of interrelated ARGs, known as the Slender Man mythos, almost every description of the Slender Man differs, sometimes significantly. However, his fundamental look and characteristics remain pretty constant across several reports. His appearance has evolved over time, but the most popular depiction and the most widely known in the media is of an extraordinarily tall person with long arms and a completely blank face. He is frequently depicted wearing a business suit, which might be genuine fabric or skin molded to resemble cloth. If the former, this implies that an intelligent entity is striving to fit in. If it is the latter, it implies a highly adaptable entity that evolves to fit its surroundings, exhibits passive-aggressive behavior, stalking prey for years before striking. It is known that he tortures his victim psychologically over extended periods of time, utilizing dread and anxiety to drive them insane. Nobody has ever completely articulated the logic behind his techniques or how he selects his victims, and his goals and/or objectives have yet to be fully understood. He is rarely, if ever, presented in a positive or benign aspect, and is widely assumed to be an evil entity. Humans, too, struggle to define the Slender Man. While words may be used, they frequently fall short of completely describing the entity. It is thought that Slender Man is from / exists in a fourth dimension, which would explain some of his apparent skills. There are two main descriptions of the Slender Man's behavior. Originally, he was portrayed as being not only malevolent, but also extremely dangerous. He would stalk its targets, impale them on trees, and remove their organs. In comparison, contemporary depictions have turned him into a more passive-aggressive creature. Instead of an active chase, he is more likely to let his prey devolve slowly into madness until they are unable to cope with their situation, often watching from afar as this takes place. Enraged, it will charge the aggressor before fleeing with its victim to an unknown area. Modern interpretations also reveal that the Slender Man interacts strangely with electrical equipment, causing tremendous interference with audio and visual recording gear. Sometimes a person may tell whether the Slender Man is nearby just by way certain devices behave. Radios, TVs, and cameras are particularly sensitive. The strength of this influence appears to vary, which might be attributed to the Slender Man's level of hostility or other external elements over which he has no control. Almost every modern description associates the Slender Man with stalking, frequently for extended periods of time. The Slender Man frequently follows a person for hours, days, months, or even years. However, he usually appears when least expected and where the victim is alone and most comfortable: home, school, work, outdoors, along trusted roads, etc., and he frequently strikes when the target's defenses are down, sometimes to the point where they have no desire to fight him off any further, making for an easier kill point. One of the most prominent characteristics of the Slender Man, which is widely recognized by both enthusiasts of the mythos and victims, is that he will target individuals who have a certain amount of understanding of it. These testimonies differ from person to person. However, it appears that becoming a victim of the Slender Man is nearly infectious or mimetic. The Slender Man's original capabilities included: 1. Selective invisibility, say, to adults or anyone without a camera, the ability to change height and body shape. 2. The ability to shape its arms into tentacles and/or the ability to sprout tentacle-like appendages from its back and shoulders to be used as additional arms or legs, or simply to instill fear, although there is a lot to talk about in a separate video. I will move on to the next topic. The Backrooms. The Backrooms, also known as the complex or hallways, is a seemingly never-ending maze of rooms and hallways that Async explored during the 6th test of the Project KV-31 low-proximity magnetic distortion system in 1989. Given its magnitude and interference with our own, it is most likely on another plane of existence. Geography. The complex's exact magnitude remains unknown. The scale is equivalent to that of a major metropolis, although it is most likely far greater. The rooms and passageways do not follow human architectural rules and, in some cases, appear physically impossible. Some portions of the complex, particularly those around the Project KV-31 threshold, have been mapped and even converted into functioning rooms to meet Async's specifications. The zone immediately beyond the threshold is made out of a vast chamber that is about 100 meters long and wide, broken by cross-shaped support pillars in a regular grid pattern. Beyond the initial chamber, the layout looks to be much more chaotic and unpredictable, with walls, pillars, and even holes appearing to be randomly placed. There is an elevation difference between two constituent panels in one area labeled Null Zone 4, resulting in a KX field. In another area, the floor gives way to a network of carpeted vertical shafts. The complex additionally extends uphill and below from the level visited by Async to an unknown length. Differing areas. The look and architecture of different areas of the complex vary significantly. Examples include, but are not limited to, low-ceiling 19th-century hallways with flowery wallpaper, flooded rooms and sections with dark gray walls, a red-lit suburban street at night, and large open halls with white plaster walls and rich dark wood flooring. Areas. The complex in the series is mostly identical to the Threshold, but certain regions have distinct features or looks. It is worth noting that these places are not listed in order of link or popularity. Area 1. Backrooms. This region is considered the complex's principal configuration and is often decorated with bright, flowery wallpaper and loud, buzzing lights. Because almost everyone observed entering the complex enters this sector, it is assumed to be the largest. The exact extent of this space is unclear, although it is believed to spread eternally in all directions. This region is linked to all of the locations described below via basic trails and may be returned to by just heading back the way one came. This area has also experienced the most proven human intervention through Async and Threshold, with an outpost and designated routes indicating sections that are ready to be explored or have previously been investigated. It's appeared in almost every video in Kane's series. Marble Hornets. Marble Hornets is a Slender Man-themed YouTube series /R, alternate reality experience. It was the first Slender Man R to be produced, setting the standard for many that came after while also introducing Slender Man to a larger audience and influencing canon. It leads the Big Five and is mostly responsible for constructing the contemporary mythology. MH is based on Jay's filmings, known as entries. As of July 2014, there are 87 submissions, 3.5 entries, 1 anonymous entry, an unnumbered opening video, and 40 companion Instagram videos from the series' unnamed adversary, Tuthark. After supposedly concluding with entry number 87, series creator Troy Wagner revealed on October 31, 2018, that the series would resume in comic form in December, but later postponed until late February. Origin and history. MH gets its name from Alex Crawley's film Marble Hornets. The early installments in the series are excerpts from the filming tapes used to make the Marble Hornets film. Alex terminated the experiment after being repeatedly pursued by the operator and passed over the tapes to his buddy and MH narrator, Jay. Alex told Jay that he intended to destroy the videos, but as a good buddy, Jay was given the tapes and placed them on YouTube in the hopes that others may help him understand what was so painful about them. Alex went to another school soon after, and Jay hadn't seen him since. Early submissions included cassettes from the Marble Hornets video and those shot by Alex, who constantly filmed himself in order to catch the operator pursuing him. Eventually, the postings switched to Jay's films, which document his efforts to find Alex and solve the enigma surrounding the operator. Over time, Jay follows leads to ancient buildings, past residences, and even defunct and abandoned locales, and discovers that the creature chasing his old buddy may be deeper and far more deadly than he ever imagined, and there is a fair likelihood that Jay is now being pursued for becoming too engaged. Some films receive cryptic comments from a secondary YouTube channel named Tuthark, which issues threats, predictions, and remarks about the events unfolding as the entries advance. Dead Bart. You know how Fox has an unusual system of counting Simpsons episodes? They refuse to count a few of them, making the number of episodes unpredictable. The reason for this is a lost episode from Season 1. Finding information about this deleted episode is challenging. No one who worked on the program at the time liked talking about it. According to what we know, the episode's production number was 7G06, and the title was Dead Bart. The episode titled 7G06 Moaning Lisa, was created later and given Dead Bart's production code to conceal the latter's presence. Matt Groening wrote the entire thing. During the first season's production, Matt began acting suspiciously. He was quite silent and appeared frightened and morbid. Mentioning this to anyone who was near Matt at the time made them extremely upset, and they forbade you from ever mentioning it to Matt himself. I first heard about it at an event where David Silverman spoke. When someone in the audience inquired about the episode, Silverman just exited the stage, bringing the lecture to a close hours early. In addition to becoming enraged, asking anyone who worked on the program about Dead Bart would prompt them to do all they could to prevent you from interacting directly with Matt Groening. At a fan gathering, I followed him after he talked to the crowd and ultimately had the opportunity to speak with him alone as he exited the venue. He didn't appear bothered that I followed him. He was probably expecting a usual meeting with an obsessed fan. When I described the lost experience, however, all color left his face and he began to tremble. When I inquired if he could provide me any specifics, he appeared to be on the edge of tears. He took a piece of paper, scribbled on it, and handed it to me. He asked me not to discuss the incident again. The piece of paper included a website URL. I'd prefer not tell what it was for reasons that will become clear in a second. I typed the address into my browser and was sent to a site that was entirely black, save for a line of yellow lettering, a link. I clicked on it, and a file began downloading. When the download was finished, my computer went nuts. It was the worst infection I'd ever seen. System restore did not function, thus the entire machine had to be restarted. I did, however, copy the material on a CD first. I attempted to access it on my now empty computer. As expected, there was an episode of The Simpsons on it. The episode was about the Simpsons taking a flying vacation. Near the end of the first act, the plane took off. As one could guess, Bart was having fun. However, while the jet was approximately 50 feet above land, Bart burst a window and was pulled out. At the start of the series, Matt believed that the animated manner of the Simpsons universe reflected life and that death made things more realistic. This explains why it was utilized in this episode. The image of Bart's corpse was scarcely recognizable. They took full advantage of not having to move by creating an almost lifelike sketch of his lifeless body. Act 1 concluded with a shot of Bart's body. When Act 2 began, Homer, Marge, and Lisa were seated at a table, sobbing. The tears continued on, becoming more painful and genuine, with greater acting than you might expect. As they sobbed, the animation began to deteriorate even further, and murmurs could be heard in the distance. The characters were scarcely legible. They were stretching and blurring, resembling malformed shadows with random brilliant colors thrown on them. There were faces in the glass that flashed in and out, so you never knew what they looked like. This sobbing persisted all into Act 2. Act 3 began with a title card indicating 1 year had passed. Homer, Marge, and Lisa remained seated at the table despite their skeleton appearance. There was no trace of Maggie or the dogs. They decided to go to Bart's tomb. Springfield was totally desolate, and as they traveled to the cemetery, the homes got increasingly dilapidated. They all appeared abandoned. When they arrived to the grave, Bart's body lay in front of his tombstone, exactly as it had at the end of Act 1. The family began weeping again. They eventually stopped and glanced at Bart's body. The camera focused in on Homer's face. According to the descriptions, Homer offers a joke at this point, but it isn't audible in the version I saw, so you can't tell what he's saying. As the show ended, the vision zoomed out. The tombstones in the background included the names of all Simpsons guest stars. Some were unknown in 1989, while others have yet to appear on the show. Each of them had a death date. The dates indicated when visitors who died since, such as Michael Jackson and George Harrison, would die. The credits were absolutely quiet and appeared handwritten. The last picture featured the Simpson family on their sofa, as seen in the intros, but drawn in the hyperrealistic, lifeless style of Bart's body. Following my initial viewing of the program, I had an idea. You may try using the tombstones to forecast the deaths of current Simpsons guest stars. However, there was something unusual about the majority of those who had not yet perished. All of their deaths are recorded on the same date. Eyeless Jack. Eyeless Jack, sometimes known as Jack Nyras, is the titular primary antagonist of the creepypasta story Eyeless Jack. Jack is a mysterious serial murderer who eats people and craves human organs. His character was created by multiple people. There is no single creator other than the creepypasta author. Canon origin. Until the narrative, a 19-year-old college student called Jack Nyras was an ordinary American until being used as a human sacrifice by a cult, which entailed removing his eyeballs and pouring a liquid concoction of hot tar and blood into his sockets. The sacrifice, however, failed, and the ceremony mistakenly transformed Jack into the eldritch kidney-eating monster he is today. Following his transformation into the eldritch monstrosity, he proceeds to target everyone. Non-canon. La Mishi Mishi, the creator of Sally Williams, penned the most famous fan-created origin narrative for Eyeless Jack. Jack Nichols was just like any other regular college student. His sole true buddy was Greg, his peer and roommate. He eventually developed a bond with another peer, Jenny Smith, and a small circle of her pals. Jack eventually realized that the organization is a cult that worships a monster named Chernabog, with Jack serving as a sacrifice to become one of Chernabog's offspring. Jenny and her companions blind Jack by pouring a hot, tar-like material into his eyes, thereby murdering him. His body quickly became possessed, and he butchered Jenny and the others, pulling off their masks, slicing their necks, and disemboweling them. He then removed their kidneys, most likely as a prize or because they were somehow tied to the sect. Creepypasta. In the original Eyeless Jack story, a guy called Mitch moves in with his brother Edwin to a forest near the Saskatchewan-Manitoba border when his house is repossessed. A week later, Mitch awakens with a big cut in his cheek. After visiting the hospital, the doctor informs that Mitch's left kidney was surgically removed overnight. Around midnight that night, Mitch awakens to see Eyeless Jack standing over his bed, wearing a blue mask with black liquid leaking from empty eye sockets behind it. Mitch gets to grab his camera and snap a photo as Jack strikes, clawing at his chest. Mitch escapes and goes into the woods, where he trips and falls unconscious. When Mitch recovers in the hospital, he learns that Edwin was slain the night before. His parents drive him to the residence to pick up his possessions. Mitch enters and finds Edwin's corpse and a little item laying next to it. He notices that it is his kidney with a bite out of it and smeared in a dark fluid. Appearance. Eyeless Jack appears as a humanoid person wearing a black sweatshirt and dark pants. He wears a deep blue mask with enormous, black, empty eye sockets, and a weird liquid substance drips down from the mask. Powers and abilities. Eyeless Jack is not very powerful, but he is extremely sneaky and appears to have some anatomical knowledge, as well as a full grasp of the human anatomy, the use of surgical equipment, and the removal of essential organs, demonstrating intelligence. Jack also appears to be relatively powerful, as he claws at Mitch's chest in one scene and easily kills his brother in the next. The image of Eyeless Jack. Arnon, a 4chan user, submitted the initial photos of Eyeless Jack on June 7, 2010. The post's subject was Nightmare Fuel, and it featured photographs of terrifying monsters from video games, including the original shot of Jack. The tale was written on February 25, 2012, by Wikia member Azelf5000. On November 21, 2014, the writer requested that the story be removed from the Creepypasta website. After all, Jeff the Killer was also eliminated. The request to eliminate Eyeless Jack was decided before the admins made their final decision. On February 17, 2020, in response to horror artist Trevor Henderson's Eyeless Jack post, user Pyrotekashu on Twitter/X disclosed that she was the original originator of the Eyeless Jack picture. To back up her allegation, she shared the unblurred, original version of the photograph, as well as a snapshot of the old Photobucket editing gallery, which was edited on November 19, 2009. She also stated that she sent the blurred version to a friend since she despised the unblurred one. The same friend donated the backdrop shot for the edit. That buddy, NickTeasy408, would subsequently publish the photo on DeviantArt on the same day, titled You Awake, and Arnon reused it in its present form. She also detailed the basic concept for the mystery creature, looming dark figure with spooky white face/mask and dark hole eyes. NES Godzilla. NES Godzilla Creepypasta is an extremely long pasta about Godzilla. This spaghetti, which was originally written by Cosbydaff for Bog Leech, is notable for its length as well as its copious use of images. It was so long that it had to be divided into subpages. Retrieved from this location. Lavender Town Syndrome. The Lavender Town Syndrome, also known as Lavender Town Tone or Lavender Town Suicides, was a surge in suicides and illnesses among Japanese youngsters aged 7 to 12 on February 27, 1996. The craze began immediately after the release of the initial Pokémon games, Pokémon Red and Green. According to rumors, the suicides and illnesses happened when the youngsters who were playing the game arrived in Lavender Town. The location's theme tune used extraordinarily high frequencies that, according to research, only youngsters and young adolescents can hear due to their sensitive hearing. Because of this consequence, at least 200 youngsters allegedly committed suicide, and many more suffered diseases and ailments. The youngsters who committed suicide frequently did so by hanging or leaping from heights. Those who did not frequently behave erratically and complained of terrible headaches after hearing the theme. The initial version of the game generated widespread panic. Following the instances, the programmers adjusted the location's music to be at a lower frequency. Lavender Town now sounds different based on the Pokémon you're playing, however the tune no longer affects children. In 2010, one video surfaced that used special software to analyze the audio waves of Lavender Town's song. When played, the program generated visuals of the Unknown at the conclusion of the music. This sparked debate because the Unknown do not appear in the series until the Generation 2 games, Silver, Gold, and Crystal. The arrangement of the Unknown looks to mean Leave Now. The original Lavender Town theme may be heard below. Viewer discretion is recommended. In 2008, the Japanese YouTube account Nana825763 released a video titled Username 666, also known as SM666 or Nico Nico Dauga. It appears to demonstrate what occurs when someone searches for the username 666 on YouTube and then repeatedly refreshes the page. The video has acquired popularity since its debut, and it is widely considered as one of the internet's first urban legends. Much debate has ensued over its substance and legitimacy, resulting in several rumors and recreations in the years following its first posting. Nana825763 has also made numerous additional similarly themed and presented frightening films, including a username 666-foot sequel named simply Another YouTube. While an account called 666 has been verified to exist on YouTube, it is unclear who controlled it or why it was removed. However, evidence shown in this video implies that Nana825763 was the account's owner, and that it was removed by Google or YouTube in response to a complaint about its graphic and repulsive character on a support forum. The following narration of the original video was translated and altered from Japanese. Story YouTube is a piece of history that people remember. Back in 2006, nothing was known about it. The majority of the community consisted of people sharing cat movies. However, one specific user sparked enough criticism to warrant recall. The channel has posted a large amount of gore porn and blood fetish content, earning them a ban for breaking the site's terms of service. However, such content is still accessible. One day, a YouTube user shared their encounter with a channel from a defunct blogging service. I worked for YouTube during 2006. I was a busy employee and uploaded videos there, too. What I didn't know was why some of the YouTube moderators had suspended a particularly troublesome account. I was more so wondering why I wasn't allowed to visit the page, rather than what was on it. Eventually, one of the other moderators handed me a piece of paper with a written link on it. He then pleaded me not to ask about the secret username ever again. The link led to a user page. The URL was simply www.youtube.com/666 . That day, I went home after work and typed it into my computer, finding that the account was suspended, but when I refreshed the page several times, some things changed. The layout became gradually more red and distorted. All of the video tags turned into the letters X666, and every single piece of text on the screen also said 666. I thought someone was hacking my computer, but I denied it and continued to refresh the page. Just then, a channel popped up. 666 S-band channel. I looked at some of the videos. Most of them were crazy depictions of gore, smothered in distorted, swirled graphics. I decided to leave the video I was watching and went to click on another one, but a blank pop-up appeared instead. I clicked an empty button, and it took me to another video by 666. Video consisted of a woman drowning in a pool of blood and other horrible things happening. Naturally, I thought this was disgusting, so I tried to pause it. It didn't let me, it wasn't responding. I decided to close Internet Explorer, but it wouldn't budge. Going on another video didn't work either. I thought there was no way out until I remembered the shut down button. Of course, I decided to shut down my computer so that whatever virus this was would relinquish its hold. But the button wouldn't work. Shut down buttons respond all the time. I knew then that I must have been hacked. All hope was lost. I couldn't get out of Explorer, and the video just kept going on and on. The girl in it was staring at me, all while random, horrible sounds burst from my speakers. At the very end, her hand popped out of the video box and crashed my computer. After a few days, I was fired. That horrid experience with 666's channel had affected me too much, and I could no longer work my job. That was when I thought of something. Could this actually have been made by the devil? Or was it just a joke to scare YouTubers? Either way, the myth was very mysterious. I hadn't gotten any sleep after watching those videos. I wonder who made them. The Blogspot website went down 2 days after the aforementioned blog was written. If someone attempted to access it, a notice would appear reading removed by admin. Error code 666". The blogger sent me an email about his experience and asked me to put it on my website. He also left a note. Username 666. Username 666. In 2008, the Japanese YouTube account Nana825763 released a video titled Username 666, also known as SM666 or Nico Nico Dauga. It appears to demonstrate what occurs when someone searches for the username 666 on YouTube and then repeatedly refreshes the page. The video has acquired popularity since its debut, and it is widely considered as one of the internet's first urban legends. Much debate has ensued over its substance and legitimacy, resulting in several rumors and recreations in the years following its first posting. Nana825763 has also made numerous additional similarly themed and presented frightening films, including a username 666-foot sequel named simply Another YouTube. While an account called 666 has been verified to exist on YouTube, it is unclear who controlled it or why it was removed. However, evidence shown in this video implies that Nana825763 was the account's owner, and that it was removed by Google or YouTube in response to a complaint about its graphic and repulsive character on a support forum. The following narration of the original video was translated and altered from Japanese. Story YouTube is a piece of history that people remember. Back in 2006, nothing was known about it. The majority of the community consisted of people sharing cat movies. However, one specific user sparked enough criticism to warrant recall. The channel has posted a large amount of gore porn and blood fetish content, earning them a ban for breaking the site's terms of service. However, such content is still accessible. One day, a YouTube user shared their encounter with a channel from a defunct blogging service. I worked for YouTube during 2006. I was a busy employee and uploaded videos there, too. What I didn't know was why some of the YouTube moderators had suspended a particularly troublesome account. I was more so wondering why I wasn't allowed to visit the page, rather than what was on it. Eventually, one of the other moderators handed me a piece of paper with a written link on it. He then pleaded me not to ask about the secret username ever again. The link led to a user page. The URL was simply www.youtube.com/666. That day, I went home after work and typed it into my computer, finding that the account was suspended, but when I refreshed the page several times, some things changed. The layout became gradually more red and distorted. All of the video tags turned into the letters X666, and every single piece of text on the screen also said 666. I thought someone was hacking my computer, but I denied it and continued to refresh the page. Just then, a channel popped up. 666's band channel. I looked at some of the videos. Most of them were crazy depictions of gore, smothered in distorted, swirled graphics. I decided to leave the video I was watching and went to click on another one, but a blank pop-up appeared instead. I clicked an empty button, and it took me to another video by 666. Video consisted of a woman drowning in a pool of blood and other horrible things happening. Naturally, I thought this was disgusting, so I tried to pause it. It didn't let me, it wasn't responding. I decided to close Internet Explorer, but it wouldn't budge. Going on another video didn't work either. I thought there was no way out until I remembered the shut down button. Of course, I decided to shut down my computer so that whatever virus this was would relinquish its hold. But the button wouldn't work. Shut down buttons respond all the time. I knew then that I must have been hacked. All hope was lost. I couldn't get out of Explorer, and the video just kept going on and on. The girl in it was staring at me, all while random, horrible sounds burst from my speakers. At the very end, her hand popped out of the video box and crashed my computer. After a few days, I was fired. That horrid experience with 666's channel had affected me too much, and I could no longer work my job. That was when I thought of something. Could this actually have been made by the devil? Or was it just a joke to scare YouTubers? Either way, the myth was very mysterious. I hadn't gotten any sleep after watching those videos. I wonder who made them. The Blogspot website went down 2 days after the aforementioned blog was written. If someone attempted to access it, a notice would appear reading removed by admin. Error code 666". The blogger sent me an email about his experience and asked me to put it on my website. He also left a note.
Never visit nor refresh username 666. Once you have finished, IT will never stop. IT won't come out.
2022 YouTube URL Easter egg. In mid-2022, it was discovered in numerous Reddit threads and proven in a stream by Markiplier that changing the word watch in any YouTube URL will direct the user to a cut, cropped, re-uploaded version of the original username, 666 video. While some assumed it was actual devilry or an intended Easter egg on the part of YouTube, it was quickly revealed that the occurrence was caused by the user casual channel user 202200510 hacking into many accounts and changing their URLs, most likely as a hoax. Said individual also had their own videos appear on numerous accounts' homepages, resulting in a flood of videos addressing the issue. The account has been deleted, and the Easter egg is no longer functional. Play with me. Sally Merriam Williams, also known as Sally or Sally Merriam Dawn, is a young girl spirit who was slain by her uncle, Johnny. After her first death, she remained to haunt her former house, frightening the living daylights out of its then current occupants while cheerfully playing with its younger ones. She is featured in her own creepypasta story, Play With Me, which was published in 2012. In 2020, La Mishi Mish rewrote and released a rebooted version of Play With Me, Reboot, which is a step up from the initial narrative. In the summer of 1966, Sally and her friends played outside until her mother summoned her for lunch. Marie said that Uncle Johnny will be living with them for business and to care for his niece. In actuality, He had just divorced his wife and needed a place to live. During Johnny's brief stay, he began to mistreat Sally, affecting her behavior and raising concerns among her friends, whom she lied to about her well-being. By 1970, Johnny's abuse went unchecked as Sally tried to preserve her life and academic success. She disconnected during his assaults and noticed her friends become suspicious, but she avoided sharing her condition. When Sally's friends organized a sleepover and a carnival excursion, her mother noted Johnny's strange conduct but rejected her concerns. At the fair, Sally felt Johnny's stare and ultimately told her companions about the torture at home. They offered mental support and encouraged her to notify her parents. Johnny brought Sally out for ice cream on her 12th birthday, but when she tried to run, he assaulted her in the woods, killing her. Sally subsequently discovered she had died and was unable to contact with her friends and relatives. Meanwhile, Marie began to learn the truth about Johnny from Sally's acquaintances, prompting a search for her daughter. After being apprehended, Johnny confessed to his crimes and was sentenced to life in jail. Marie was traumatized by the event, which contributed to her mental degeneration. On the anniversary of Sally's death, her parents paid a visit to her grave before leaving town. Sally appears in two unique versions, one for children and the other for teens and adults. She has long, wavy brown hair and bright emerald green eyes in both forms. She wears a pink nightgown and walks around barefoot. This shape is 8 inches taller than her 8-year-old form. She seems fresh and youthful at the age of 8. She does not seem bloodied or filthy in this form. In contrast, Sally seems more mature in her teenage incarnation at 12, with a duller color palette. This creature stands 8 inches higher, with apparent skull fissures revealing bleeding brain tissue. Her clothes is covered in filth, and she has scratches and bruises all over her body. Blood runs down her head and face, giving a stark contrast to her previous appearance. Her feet were filthy on the soles as she went into the woods to escape her uncle. When Sally was alive, she was a joyful, kind, and all-around golden kid to her friends and parents. After her uncle Johnny sexually molested her, she began to feel anxious and afraid. That didn't stop her from striving for the best in her life. As a poltergeist, she retains part of her previous personality. She's goofy, playful, and a trickster. The girl enjoys scaring and pranking others. She likes playing with the younger tenants of her previous residence, but she is apprehensive of adults and strangers. Sally's default appearance is that of a confident, honest, and kind ghost. However, she can become exceedingly jealous, noisy, headstrong, immature, and bratty, and she likes most of the attention of a prankster. She can also be nosy when she knocks on doors, windows, or walls to scare people. Sally occasionally has ghostly and disruptive bouts of rage. She is more neutral towards everyone. Sally can float a few feet off the ground, pass through walls, floors, and doors, and lift certain sized things, but it all depends on her emotional condition. The larger the item, the angrier she becomes, but it needs a lot of energy, which she normally conserves until she has enough energy to repeat. She enjoys knocking on walls, doors, and windows. If Sally feels threatened, the little girl can scratch the person's body, typically 4 instead of 3. She can also change her appearance to seem like 8 for smaller youngsters or her 12-year-old self for people she wishes to fear or distrust. Sonic.exe. Sonic.exe is a creepypasta about a mysterious Sonic game CD that might be glitchy, hacked, or created by someone, or something, other than Sega. Sonic.exe, abbreviated X or EXE, is the titular primary adversary of the Sonic.exe series. Sonic.exe is an eldritch demon that takes the guise of Sonic the Hedgehog and sends out a haunted game disc showcasing the creature slaughtering the major Sonic characters, eventually causing him to pull out his victim's soul and turn them into his slave. There's a long enough story there. A separate video could be dedicated to it. Sonic.exe is the polar opposite of Sonic the Hedgehog. He is a vengeful, despotic, spiteful, sadistic, cruel, and twisted creature that delights in continuously taking anyone's life, including his own slaves, demonstrating him as the epitome of pure evil. EXE sees mankind as the ultimate plaything and wishes to one day have it all to himself for forever, believing himself to be a god due to his reality-controlling abilities. EXE's hubris and sadism appear to spring from his creative side, therefore it's plausible that he utilizes his skills to torment individuals to see what he can achieve with them, rather than merely for the pleasure and power it provides him. Aside from his insatiable love for humans and his sadistic and creative need to play with them, EXE idolizes Sonic the Hedgehog, which inspired him to create a body similar to his idols as well as a world with many aspects of Sonic's world, with the goal of one day having Sonic all to himself as he rules over humanity. While EXE adores Sonic to the point of potential homosexuality and devotion, he also expresses dissatisfaction when Sonic does not act like the Sonic he idolizes. According to the original story, Sonic.exe can fly and levitate off the ground, teleport from one location to another in a cloud of black smoke, travel through the game and manipulate its code, create dark, ghostly illusions to confuse and torment his enemies, and shapeshift to look exactly like his idol Sonic. In the second narrative, he is revealed to be extremely deceptive and seductive, capable of convincing an entire cult that he is doing good for the world. EXE has the ability to twist and modify reality in any way he wants. He is entirely omnipotent and immortal, and he cannot be killed by regular ways, yet he cannot survive long in the actual world, which would likely kill him permanently. EXE can also generate and control dark matter, the very thing he is composed of, and he has a massive black hole within his lips that he utilizes when he is bored with a slave, causing their soul to evaporate and remove them from existence. Herobrine. Herobrine, also known as him, is a famous creepypasta about a ghost haunting the code of Minecraft. He is one of Minecraft's primary community idols. Herobrine is not present in any version of Minecraft. The canon of Herobrine is usually recognized as the earliest image/story regarding Herobrine and the Brocraft stream. Anything submitted after these two occurrences is considered a fan-made adaptation or variant. Herobrine first appeared as a single image depicting an encounter. It was posted on 4chan's board and received little attention. It alleged that Herobrine emerged in a single-player game, covering the map with pyramids and tunnels. The media is the first to refer to him as Herobrine. It wasn't until later that Herobrine gained notoriety, when Brocraft streamer Copeland photoshopped him into multiple pictures for his chat. He had just developed an interest in the narrative and wants to be a part of it. After receiving mostly positive comments, he decided to create a prank. In an email, he outlined exactly what happened. Copeland had navigated the globe like a typical Let's Player would, avoiding the work-in-progress chamber he had put up for the fake. Herobrine was injected into the stream here, at 2045. He has been verified to be a retextured artwork. Copeland suddenly yelled and raced out of the room, abruptly halting the feed. Copeland feigned to be shook up in the discussion and subsequently wrote a comment on the forums, linking to the video to spread the word, in the hopes of receiving similar reactions. After a period, Copeland removed the painting and went back to basic textures. He continued to stream, claiming to be afraid. He said that he would destroy the universe so that he might never encounter Herobrine again. Polybius later uploaded a video of Herobrine in a user-created lava field. In contrast to the last footage, this Herobrine was freestanding. Because of this, he was most likely a retextured door. The webcast fell down when Polybius fled and saved his game, only to return 10 minutes later, where Herobrine had vanished. Later, during the second broadcast, Polybius can be heard chatting to his wife and claiming to be trolling. This sparked uproar in the streaming conversation. He then pretended a game crash. Copeland was upset because Polybius exposed Herobrine as a fraud. It's unclear when it transpired in regard to Polybius' video, but Copeland later shared links in conversation that led to Ghost in the stream. This is presumably where the moniker him came from. The site displays Steve's visage, but with genuine, furiously rolling eyes instead of his block eyes, which have been adjusted to be entirely black. Below the face is a tangle of characters and letters. After eliminating all non-alphabet characters, the following message appears: It has been reported that some victims of torture, during the act, would retreat into a fantasy world from which they could not wake up. In this catatonic state, the victim lived in a world just like their normal one, except they weren't being tortured. The only way that they realized they needed to wake up was a note they found in their fantasy world. It would tell them about their condition and tell them to wake up. Even then, it would often take months until they were ready to discard their fantasy world and please wake up. The message repeatedly tells the user to wake up, meaning that they are living in a dream world, and that the text buried on the page is their note. The above passage is from the Creepypasta Wake Up. The stream continued with no additional Herobrine sightings. For the next year, Copeland remained confident that Herobrine was real. Since the stream, Herobrine's popularity has skyrocketed, driving him to meme status and transforming him into a community figure. There have been various Herobrine hacks, animations, artwork, and structures developed. Herobrine is a human being with the exact same skin as Steve. However, Herobrine possesses dazzling white eyes that glow in the dark, as if they were a source of light. Herobrine can sometimes be seen holding equipment like pickaxes. This originates from the prevalent communal idea that Herobrine was a miner. Typically, his hands are empty. Suicidemouse.avi. Suicide Mouse, also known as Suicidemouse.avi, is a black and white video that has a looping animation of the Disney character Mickey Mouse going along with many buildings while accompanied by creepy piano music. The movie fades to black for many minutes before returning with damaged visuals and loud screaming sounds near the conclusion. On November 25, 2009, YouTuber NEC1 published the video, which included a lengthy narration about a fictitious history for the animation. The description provides information and more details about the animation. NEC1 began with a question: so do any of you remember those Mickey Mouse cartoons from the 1930s? The animated film opens with Mickey wandering with a gloomy look, but no accompaniment. But soon, things start to shift. Sound begins to play in the background, starting with a repetitive tapping and progressing to what the source characterizes as a murmur. It wasn't a language, but rather a gurgled wail. As the volume and intensity of the murmur progressively rise, the background shifts in weird and irrational ways, bending and twisting into a nightmare world, and Mickey's visage changes to an obscene leer. By the 7th minute, the gurgled wail had turned into an agonizing scream. Mickey's face continues to contort into a rictus of fear, his eyes and mouth growing as the buildings around him disintegrate, collapse, and burn. By the 8th minute of the video, Mickey is running furiously, his face contorted into a hideous expression, and the screaming has reached an excruciating pitch. The reel then switches to the huge, happy Mickey emblem that appears at the opening and finish of Disney's classic one-reel animations. Ben drowned. Ben drowned or haunted? Majora's Mask is a well-known creepypasta, and subsequently, an alternate reality game, developed by Alex Hall, commonly known as Jadoosable. The plot focuses on a Majora's Mask cartridge that is haunted by the spirit, if it exists, of a youngster named Ben. The Jadoosable wiki contains analysis and updates on a perspective tale supplement from the original author. I'm Search and Rescue Officer. The I'm a Search and Rescue Officer creepypasta is a series of postings by the pseudonym Search and Rescue Woods on the r/nosleep Reddit site, chronicling weird, frightening, and spooky experiences witnessed by a U.S. Forest Service search and rescue (SAR) officer. The stories involve inexplicable occurrences such as implausible corpse placements, weird stairs rising in the woods, and unexplained disappearances, resulting in a sequence of unnerving scenarios reminiscent of David Pollide's Missing 411 reports. Smile Dog. Smile Dog is the title primary adversary in the creepypasta story Smile Dog. He is a supernatural creature who takes the appearance of a demonic husky and forces people to disseminate his picture all over the internet, or he will murder them. Origin. Smile Dog, also known as Smile.jpg, is a reputedly haunted image that dates back to the early days of the internet. Smile.jpg has a reputation for driving people who view it nuts, causing its victims to see it in their mind's eye at all times. While it has been determined that the pictures in victims' heads are the consequence of epileptic seizures, it is unclear why the image produces this. However, all of the victims who have spoken out about their experiences have stated that they are also visited by the dog-like creature in the photograph, known as Smile Dog. When the victims have these nightmares, all they can do is watch and listen as Smile Dog informs them that the only way out of their misery is to spread the word, and many of them get a removable media by mail without a return address shortly after. These media are claimed to include another copy or version of Smile Dog, which the victim is urged to share with others. People who claim to have seen Smile.jpg frequently joke that they were too busy to save a copy of the image on their hard drive. However, all putative victims provide the identical description of the photo. A dog-like creature, lighted by the camera flash, sits in a dimly lit room, with the only background feature visible being a human hand reaching from the darkness on the left side of the image. The hand is empty, although it is commonly described as beckoning. Naturally, the dog receives the most attention. The beast's muzzle is said to split in a broad smile, showing 2 rows of extraordinarily white, very straight, very pointed, and very human-looking teeth. This is, of course, not a description provided immediately after witnessing the image, but rather the victim's recall, in which they claim to have seen the image repeatedly replayed in their mind's eye while experiencing epileptic fits. These episodes are said to last indefinitely, frequently as the afflicted sleep, resulting in intense and terrifying dreams. Medication can be used to address certain conditions, although it is more successful in some circumstances than others. Appearance: Smile Dog looks like a Siberian husky with gray and pink fur and an uncanny grin. When he changes into his demon form, his fur turns red with a yellowish tinge and black on the top of his head, and his smile grows significantly larger. Personality: Smile Dog is a vicious, sadistic, cruel, wicked, satanic, and manipulative sadist who exploits his victims' weak brains and breaks them while mocking them and instructing them to broadcast his picture around the internet, and perhaps the entire globe. Smile Dog is remarkably patient. He waits for his victims to give in to his demands and then leaves them alone, because he knows what he's doing and takes pride in his work. Powers and abilities: Smile Dog has the ability to enter dreams and transform them into nightmares in which he renders the victim defenseless and unable to communicate while telling them what he wants. He can also shapeshift into a demonic version of himself, which he uses to terrorize and coerce his victims to do what he says. In other versions of the myth, he may cross over to the actual world and slay the victim, carrying their souls with him to hell, where he is supposed to have originated. Abandoned by Disney. Abandoned by Disney is a famous creepypasta about an adventurer who uncovers a deteriorating, abandoned Disney-themed resort named Mowgli's Palace, finds evidence of human remains in other mascot outfits, and finally meets the primary antagonist, photonegative Mickey, PN Mickey. PN Mickey is an inverted-colored Mickey Mouse outfit that contains a real human or has a malignant consciousness. It removes its own head to expose an unknown material and attempts to assault the narrator, who escapes the resort after failing to recover any proof. Subjectively, this is a story worth about 34 minutes of reading. The Rake. The Rake is the titular major antagonist in the creepypasta story of the same title. It is a humanoid creature with huge teeth and claws that follows its victims, appearing at the end of their beds while they sleep, in the woods, or within their homes. Since 2006, images, fan art, and video blogs have been created featuring the monster, with multiple allusions in the Slenderverse YouTube series Everyman Hybrid. Origin. The Rake first appeared on 4chan's board in late 2005. An anonymous user began a topic with the message, "Hey, let's make a new monster." Naturally, there were numerous suggestions, but one stood out, so another member started a new post based on it. The thread began with this post: "Alright, this is for the people who like the 3 eyes, no apparent mouth, pale skin one. Here's what we've got so far: humanoid, about 6 feet tall when standing, but usually crouches and walks on all 4s. It has very pale skin. The face is blank. as in, no nose, no mouth. However, it has 3 solid green eyes, one in the middle of its forehead, and the other 2 on either side of its head, towards the back. Usually seen in front yards in suburban areas. Usually just watches the observer, but will stand up and attack if approached. When it attacks, a mouth opens up, as if a hinged skull that opens at the chin. Reveals many tiny, but dull teeth. The monster ultimately developed into what we now call the Rake. During its early years, the Rake's design and nomenclature changed several times. One of the most common names was Operation Crawler. The following are some of the checkpoints from the thread where it originated. 6 feet tall is good humanoid pale grayish skin, 2 large eyes on the front of the head because of trips 148327777 in nature, no nose, a mouth that is slightly visible then opens on a hinge to reveal hundreds of dull but not blunt teeth, consumes meat but genitals don't matter because no interviews really talk about that, seen in suburban areas minding its own business, attacks when approached but mostly just stares at people, and looks human enough to be able to disguise. Revision number 2. Approximately 6 foot tall, but seen crouching, humanoid with pale, grayish skin, 2 slightly larger than human eyes, no nose, a mouth that is smaller than human, but when provoked or attacked, opens freely on a hinge down to the neckline, revealing hundreds of dull but not blunt teeth, unknown origin, unknown diet, seen in suburban areas, opens its mouth and widens its eyes when provoked, attacks when approached, and stares when not provoked or approached. On July 20, 2006, Something Awful user Brian Somerville shared the earliest and most well-known tale about the Rake on his own blog. It was the first tale in the Horror Theater series, although Somerville does not say if the content came from another website or was authored exclusively for that blog post. According to folklore, personal reports of the Rake date back to the 12th century and were first documented in 1691. The myth also claims that bizarre happenings in the northeastern United States involving the creature sparked short local media attention in the summer of 2003, but most written descriptions of the creature have been mysteriously erased since then. Spread. Reposts of the Rake copypasta began surfacing on LiveJournal as early as December of 2008. The story appeared on 4chan's Paranormal board in April 2009, then on Something Awful in June of same year. The tale was originally posted on the Paranormal subreddit in August 2010. The Rake was ultimately included to several horror tale databases, including Creepypasta.com, Creepypasta Wikia, and Creepypasta Index. It was also covered on various paranormal websites, such as Unexplained Mysteries and the Slender Nation. The Rake, a single-topic Tumblr blog, was founded in December 2010, giving a consolidated location for copypastas, sightings, and fan art regarding the story. That month, a photograph of a Grimm, a monster character from the first-person shooter game Resistance 3, emerged on a Louisiana local news channel, with the reporter claiming that a viewer snapped the photo at a nearby hunting site. Many YouTube commenters mistook the Grimm for the creature mentioned in the Rake narrative because of its similar construction and attributes. The image. The photograph was shot on November 30, 2010 and quickly circulated over the internet, with prominent local news stations discussing it. Nobody knew what to make of this horrific encounter, which was ultimately proved to be a Resistance 3 game fake. Appearance. The Rake is shown as a pale, skinny, and naked humanoid figure or a big, malformed, hairless dog. It is frequently described as having white eyes. The Rake also has extremely keen claws, which is why it was nicknamed the Rake. Powers and abilities. The Rake is a feral misanthrope who will not hesitate to kill anyone who gets in its way. Its strength, stealth, and speed allow it to easily overpower humans and maneuver around destinations without being seen, and it can use its rake-like claws as a weapon, inflicting massive damage on the victim. It does not appear to be able to withstand physical trauma and has been attempted to be captured. Facts. 1. The Rake's origins are unknown, however it is believed to have been a human who was transformed and granted immortality, based on its humanoid look. It's also feasible that the Rake is an extraterrestrial from another globe or planet. 2. The Rake has lived for hundreds of years, dating back to the 17th century, indicating that it is an immortal being. 3. Has links with the Slender Man. 4. The creator's name remains unknown. 5. H.P. Lovecraft served as the inspiration for the Rake. Laughing Jack. Laughing Jack is the titular main antagonist in the creepypasta story of the same title. He's a vicious killer clown that started off as a small boy's imaginary buddy. That is, until the boy forgets about him. Follow his journey from being created, forgotten, and transformed into a nasty killer clown who now tries to murder innocent children. Origin. Laughing Jack, created by a guardian angel, began as a colorful jack-in-the-box clown whose personality mirrored that of his owners. He was later given as a Christmas present to a lonely youngster called Isaac Grossman in the 1800s. Isaac eventually abandoned Laughing Jack after being transferred to boarding school. Laughing Jack became monochromatic and emotionless as a result of his isolation. Meanwhile, Isaac grew up to be a cold-hearted serial killer who kidnapped, tortured, and murdered several innocent neighbors. Although scared at first, Laughing Jack's demeanor eventually resembled Isaac's malevolent nature. When Laughing Jack was unintentionally unleashed, he looked to be a taller, darker, and more demonic version of himself. Resentful of his treacherous owner, he tortured and murdered Isaac using the same tools he had used on his victims. As time passed, Laughing Jack visited numerous more youngsters, the majority of whom were lonely or neglected, and claimed to be their imaginary buddy. He would eventually torture and kill them all, leaving their souls trapped in the nightmare world of an abandoned fairground. To make matters worse, the song Pop Goes the Weasel plays in the background indefinitely, tormenting them. Appearance. Laughing Jack used to be a brightly colored, tan-skinned clown who had shaggy red hair and a large cone nose. After being abandoned for 13 years, his appearance changed completely to monochrome, making him appear almost demonic. Personality. At first, Laughing Jack was an innocent, charming, and pure-hearted angelic creature who did his best to console Isaac, given how lonely he was. However, Isaac's later acts had a huge detrimental impact on the gift, which grew increasingly troubled and psychotic over time. Laughing Jack, who was initially colorful, lost his colors as Isaac's actions corrupted it. Laughing Jack eventually turned completely black and white, as he reached a point of no return and fully accepted his demonic identity. Laughing Jack is now portrayed as a character of pure evil, remorseless and violent in heart, who enjoys killing and torturing people he was once supposed to protect: children. Powers and abilities. Laughing Jack is a magical entity with amazing evil magical skills, including the ability to travel in an instant in a cloud of pitch-black smoke, become invisible, and mutilate his victims' bodies. Jack can also cause nightmares and visual hallucinations, presumably for parents, like he did in the original narrative, and can utilize telekinesis to manipulate items with his thoughts, making his victims appear insane. Other stories. In an undefined year in the contemporary age, Laughing Jack disguised himself as an imaginary friend and paid a visit to James, a lonely suburban 5-year-old child. James informed his mother, but she disregarded it as a phase. One night, his mother had a nightmare about seeing the spirits of Laughing Jack's previous victims in an abandoned carnival. The following day, Laughing Jack places James' action figures on top of his mother's nightstand, presumably to taunt her. She asks James, and he simply gives her the truth, much to her surprise. Later, James receives a handful of sweets from Laughing Jack in his garden. His mother discovers this and insists that he explain how he obtained it. James tells her the truth again, but she believes the candy was given to him by one of his next-door neighbors. Laughing Jack eventually kills Fido, the family dog, hangs his body from the kitchen light fixtures, and destroys the rest of the kitchen. He also rips its stomach apart and fills it with sweets. The mother observed the incident and took her son next door, where she phoned the police. The police dismiss it as a robbery, but the mother disputes this, noting that all of the doors were shut and no windows were open throughout the occurrence. She assumes that whomever did this was already inside her home before the occurrence. They both come home, and the mother decides to check on her kid using the baby monitor. The mother hears a quiet groan and enters James' chamber, where she finds her son fastened to the wall, disemboweled, his eyes gouged, and his tongue and teeth taken. She also sees Laughing Jack in his actual, hideous form, cackling sadistically at the sight of his work. Having had enough, the mother took a knife and attempted to kill Laughing Jack, but he merely vanished into a black cloud. This distracted the mother, and she accidentally plunged the knife into James's beating heart, killing him instantly. The police apprehend her and commit her to the Firopoulos house for the criminally insane. She believes that being hospitalized isn't that horrible, despite the fact that someone is always playing Pop Goes the Weasel outside her chamber. Polybius. If anything, then in this case it should not be confused with the ancient Greek historian also named Polybius. Polybius is an urban legend based on a rare arcade game released in 1981. The game was developed by a mystery business named Sinneslöschen, German 4 cents deletion, and was a puzzle/shoot 'em up similar to Tempest. It was only available in a few suburbs of Portland, Oregon. People reportedly formed long lines to play it. However, players have reported strange things about the game, such as hearing a woman cry and seeing grotesque faces out of the corners of their eyes while playing. Afterward, players would have nightmares, nausea, headaches, blackouts, and forgetfulness. Some have even committed suicide. Others quit playing video games entirely, and at least one became an anti-video game advocate. According to one arcade owner, individuals in black suits would frequently visit to collect records from the game. They did not collect any money, only statistics about games. As a result, the most popular opinion is that the machine was a government experiment involving subliminal messaging. The game has remained unknown since. Around 1 month after its release, all of the cabinets mysteriously vanished. One appeared in an arcade in 1998, but immediately vanished. Although several have attempted to replicate the game, no one has ever discovered the original ROM. This part is going to the end. Don't forget about like and subscribe to my channel. Bye and see you soon.